blazing trails, you know how Johnny moves. Young black mamba dropping the hottest news. Like some mad attorney calling audibles. When it's mindset, I don't know how I'ma lose. Keep it 100, we from the 90s, dude. Freshest podcast out, we on the grind for you. Stuck on your head all day, Gorilla Glue. They think they really gon' out me, pull up with the big tech. Call it Silicon Valley, made it through a dark winter, it was getting so cloudy. Now we got the sickest show in the whole county. It's a cold world, better bundle up. Gotta get the shovel when the truck is stuck. In the middle of a blizzard still coming up. Tuning in just so I know what is up. It's the Cloud Chronicles.
What up, world? We are live. This is the Cloud Chronicles. Thank you for joining me. Those of you who are watching right now, thank you for those who will be watching later when you get off work. We got a special early edition. I got a friend in here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce her right now. So check it out. She is an actor. She is a fellow podcaster. She's a playwright. She's a comedian. I was on her show. We had a funny conversation. So I'm happy I could get her on here today. So welcome to the Cloud Chronicles for the first time. The lovely, the talented Genevieve Joy in the building.
Hi.
How you doing?
Wow. Are all those horns for me? That's exciting.
Yes, that was all for you. That was all for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you
how
for
you doing
having
today?
me today. I'm good. I'm hanging out in my office. I have my Starbucks, so everything's right in the world.
Right. Awesome. I'm glad I could sneak into that busy schedule of yours and get you on here real quick. So definitely. So for the people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself. Tell them about the comedy background and the acting and the playwriting. I'd like to know about that too.
Sure. So we actually met over Facebook because we were in a bunch of the same like podcast message board groups. So I have a podcast. I have two actually. Right. I have one that's called Just Genevieve that I started on my own close to 3 years ago. And then I started thinking, it would be fun to bring other people into this and do one that has guests. So I started interviewing people. So now I have another one that's called More Than Just Genevieve, and that was the one with you. And I started doing a podcast really because I do stand-up comedy, as you know, but I also do a lot of storytelling. And it's harder to do long-form storytelling in a stand-up context. Like it's all just fast jokes, get to what's funny. So I kind of wanted a platform where I could meander and be a little more creative with my storytelling. So that was the impetus behind doing the podcast. And then it's also cool because once you have a recording, it's forever. You can kind of put something to rest and say, oh, I did that. It's like a thing that you've made.
Right.
I have a theater acting background. That was my original idea about what I was going to do with my life. So I also have written a couple of plays that have been produced. One in particular you'd probably really like a lot. It's a very dark, it's a romance, but it's really dark and very funny. And I'm in the process now of trying to make that a movie, which is a huge undertaking. And that's me. Are we frozen? Uh-oh.
You there? Sorry.
I am. Were we frozen for a moment?
Yeah. Hey, that's just this is technology nowadays. It just happens.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I'm sorry about that. But if you could please continue from where you were. We were talking about. I was going to ask you. So, have you lived in California, or did you move out there to pursue acting?
I did move out here to pursue acting. So I have been in California for 8 years. Can you believe it? No.
Okay.
9. Wow. Is it 9? This year it'll be 9 years, 8.5. So
Did it go by quick?
What?
Did it go by really fast?
Oh, well, it does. In fact, a friend of mine and I, we were joking about that yesterday because it's like because there's no seasons, you don't feel like the passage of time in the same way. You just kind of like, you're here and then you just like take a nap and then you wake up and it's been 5 years. But it's been busy. I mean, a lot has happened in that time. But yeah, I came here from New York. When I was in New York, I was doing a lot of stand-up, but I wasn't working as an actress at all. And I really wanted to change that a little bit and do more acting. And even though New York is great and it's a perfectly fine place for that, I'm from the New York area. So I felt for me like I needed to do something new and live someplace different. Because at that point, I think I was 26. So it was kind of like if I didn't leave then, there was a good chance that I never would. You know, like if I were to meet somebody or get a great job or something like that, then maybe I would end up in New York forever, which wouldn't be horrible. But I wanted the experience at least of trying out LA.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you're trying to act and do. Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff in that business, you definitely have to go to LA at some point. Or move. When I had
an opportunity, I mean, it all just lined up perfectly. I had a really great opportunity. There was a director, Gary Marshall. You may know who that is. He had a theater out here, and he was actually seeing actresses for a role in this Neil Simon comedy, which was really, I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect for me. So I came and I read for him, and I got the job. So I moved to LA, like, with this awesome job that I was going right into. And then, of course, that was like a 4-month commitment, and then that was done. And then I was just out here with nothing, knowing very few people, and kind of scrambling like everybody does to make it work. And it's been wonderful, though. It's been great. I'm happy. I like it.
Let me ask you, how was that first time on stage doing comedy?
Oh,
how was that?
Well, I started comedy. This is unbelievable. It will be 15 years. It was right. Yeah, I know. Because when I was in college, I said, I came home and I was like, I want to be an actress, which my parents, I had been taking acting classes in the city all through high school and everything, but I don't know that they really thought I was serious. And my mom and dad were like, okay, well, if you're going to be an actress, then you're going to be like, you're basically going to be dependent on us for longer than we'd like you to. And so here's the deal. You need to try stand-up comedy, which nobody has that story. Everybody's like, their parents were against it. My parents were all about it. I think, one, they didn't really know what it was, and they didn't really know, like, I don't think they really understood what exactly world they were pushing me into. I think they were like, oh, that'll be cute, And so I took, like, and even now, it's like people, they see me like hosting at Caroline's or like some really cool club, and they're like, oh my God, it's so glamorous. That's like, it's like 0.5% of what the actual experience of a life in stand-up. Like, so much of it is just shitty bars, like laundromat. I mean, like just like terrible. In order to get to a level where you're doing that, and late nights and exhausting people, and just it's a whole world that is not so glamorous, that not everybody sees, that I don't think my mom and dad were aware of. But once I did this workshop that was like 4 Sundays, and then the 5th week was a show. And it was at this really fancy comedy club, but it wasn't like there were no paying customers there. It was like they had it for the afternoon, and everybody just invited all their friends. And that was the first time that I was ever really on a stage, like holding a microphone. And I don't think it ever occurred to me from the day I started that I was ever going to stop. It wasn't like I had this moment like, and I'm going to do this forever. It was like, oh, this is just who I am now. It was as natural as like breathing for the first time almost. It didn't, the idea that like, okay, cool, I've done that. I can say I've done, like, there are people who just want to say they've done comedy. That wasn't my experience at all. It was like, this is the beginning. And I've always felt like that. I've always felt ever since I started comedy that this was my path for forever. It's never going to be over.
Yeah. The comedy gods were like, we've got ourselves another one.
Yeah, right. And I do imagine that's what they look like too. They're like, like twisting their mustaches.
Yeah, exactly. So what have you been doing? I mean, I know everything's kind of starting to open up now, but how are you doing your comedy during like like when it was locked down, like the hardcore?
Yeah, well, I mean, a handful of Zoom things here and there, but really only when people ask me to, because I'm not. I wasn't into it. I didn't want to do it. I was kind of sad about stand-up, but I was okay with having a break from it because I was doing other things. I was working on my podcast a lot, and then I got invited to do a Zoom show. And after I did the Zoom show, that's when it hit me that like I wasn't doing comedy. Like, it made me feel 1,000 times worse. So I try not to do them because I really didn't like it. And here and there, like I had one friend who like legitimately couldn't leave the house, and this was all she could do. And she's like, I'm producing a Zoom show. I'm like, yeah, fine. And it wasn't awful, but I don't like it. So I wasn't one of those people that was all about sitting at the computer and, like it just feels like 10 comics on a conference call jerking off for each other. It does not feel like a show.
Yeah, I hear you.
But now, some stuff has opened up. And last week, let me tell you, I'm a little I'm a little disappointed in myself because I hit like 5 shows in 2 nights, which used to be totally standard. You bounce around, you go to this place at 7:30, then you go to this place at 9 o'clock, and maybe you can muscle your way into a spot. Maybe you just watch for a little while, then you go, try to do a mic here, and then you hear somebody's performing over here, and you go, let's stuck in here. I mean, in New York, that was my whole life. If I wasn't on stage, I was watching. It was always. And then in LA, I've gone through little surges where for periods of time I'm really hitting the stand-up grind, and then I get involved in something else like a play, so I take a little respite. But I was exhausted, and it wasn't just the being out late, which I wasn't really used to. It was being on, like making small talk, because previously, I haven't really been the most compliant with this pandemic shit. I'll be honest. Like, I have been seeing my friends and stuff, but even that, you're hanging out with 1-2 people. You're private. You're probably someplace kind of private. Going to the beach or going out to dinner with a couple of friends or going to somebody's house. Right. This is like real life. This is like I go into a space and there's all these people around and they're all close together. And it's just a sensation that I'm no longer used to. So it's a big change. Give me one second. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, no, go ahead. Take your time.
My dog. I brought my dog in with me today. She's driving me crazy. She does this thing where she licks her paws, but not like in the delicate way that the cat does it. She's like, and it's so.
It's that loud, sloppy, aggressive sound. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I used to have a dog that would wake me up at like 3 a.m. doing that. Like,
I won't let her sleep with me anymore because of that. I can't get through. I'm a light sleeper. Like, I can't have television on. I can't have anything. I need silence. And when the dog's like, I can't deal with it. And people judge me.
Banging on the door.
Sleep with you? I'm like, no. We hang out for a little while, and that's into the crate you go. Sorry. I'm
like, look, thing lives here rent free. Okay, so I think it's okay.
First, yeah. What kind do you have?
So you remember? I don't know if you remember, but you were telling me you had a funny story. So I definitely, do you remember that? Okay,
Yeah.
so before I let you get out of here, I
feel
definitely
like
I want the funny story.
I feel like the timing is correct because I think that you'll appreciate this because so I have this girlfriend who had dated this guy in the past and she broke up with him. And then she tells me all about him. And the guy sounds terrific, right? And I'm like, why on earth would you break up with this guy? He sounds awesome. And she's like, well, that was it. I'm like, that all sounds like a misunderstanding. We need to work this out, you know, because she's been single a long time, you know. So I'm trying to marry her off, and she goes, well, if we all go out together, it'll be like a buffer because I haven't seen him in a year and I'm a little uncomfortable. But maybe he's got this cool studio. And maybe like if we pretended that we were just in the neighborhood and you wanted to see the studio, it would be like, hey, how you doing, man? And then we could all go to dinner and then I could see what you think. And I'm like, fine, I'm totally down. Let's do this. I'm happy to like, you know, be the little go-between that makes this happen.
Right. The buffer. Yeah.
The buffer, right. So he is like a producer. He does like music videos and commercials and things like that. And he works out of this really cool space in Long Beach. So we drive all the way to Long Beach, which doesn't mean anything to you, but it's like it's a hike, right? Like, yeah, it's a drive. So we go down there. It's like an hour. It's not that big a deal, but
that's a drive.
Yeah. So we get down there, and the guy is super friendly, thrilled to see her, clearly still into her, right? I'm like, this is great. And he says, you know, they're having this like a weed farmers market here, like in our courtyard, because they're like this fortress, and anything behind, like nobody will see. So it's kind of a great hidden spot to have a bunch of illegal shit for sale, because while weed is legal, like they ain't just had weed, like they had mushrooms, they had all kinds of stuff there, and it was like super secure, like no cell phones. Like you pulled out a phone, they're like, you know, because they had stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
No pictures, no nothing. Yeah.
Right. And it was big, and all these people had these tents, right? We're going, and they had samples, and they had like little, you know, brownies, and it was like, oh, taste the brownie. And I'm not a big pot person. Like, not really. Remember we were talking about it, I said, it puts me to sleep. And, you know, and you were like, oh, you got to try this kind and this kind. I'm like, yeah, I never was into it enough to really know the difference. So I had like a little fraction of a brownie, but I was like, oh, I need not a lot. Because, right. Then, okay. And I've had like the bong before, right? Where you smoke it out of the bong. Right. And it gives you like a little daze. Usually lasts a few minutes. It's not that big of a deal. So after I have a brownie and a piece of like a Rice Krispie treat or something like that, I meander into this tent where they have what looked like this skillet where like for making pancakes. But what they were making, it was this like very pretty. It looked like an amber sheet of rock candy, like this big.
Oh, you're talking about like concentrate or whatever? Yeah, the wax or concentrate or whatever. Yeah.
On wax paper, right? And it had this. It was like this hard candy, but it was very like that. It looked like the top of a creme brulee. Kind of.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So the guy says to me, "Oh, you dab." Okay. Well, I've never done something called a dab. I don't really know what a dab is. And, you know, in my defense, I feel like he could have explained it. Maybe.
Yes.
But I don't know. Like, you dab? Like, does that mean like, you know, you like is that like cool person speak for dabble in no, it's not. You dabble in marijuana.
You got extra like dab what? Dab it. You got to be specific though. Seriously, you really do not dab what?
That dab is an actual thing, which means something very specific in the pot smoking world. And
yes,
he breaks off a piece of this what looks like the hard candy top of a creme brulee, right? And he puts it underneath the thing that he's about to light up, and he goes, "Okay, breathe in, and the bubbles and the thing. And as I'm breathing, I went, I've been on here a little too long. Like I knew I was taking an extra hard hit and maybe it was
Oh
time
yeah. And you should have went like on that stuff for the first time.
within seconds. Okay.
Yes.
I'm looking at my hands and I'm like, have I been in the bath too long? Like
Yes.
and
It's like that.
So we're supposed to go to dinner, okay? And I'm supposed to be like the cool friend who's bridging the gap between these two estranged people. And we get in the car. I get into my friend's car, and he's gonna meet us, and we're gonna go all out to dinner. And I just remember going, it's so cold. Like we pull into a parking lot and we're pulling into his parking lot, and then we're all going to get in the same car. We're going to drop off his car and go to dinner. So we pull in the parking lot, and my friend goes, let's get out of the car. We're going to go get in his. And I said, it's cold out there. It's like a hot night in London. It's cold. It's cold out there. I don't want to be out in the cold. And so she calls him and she goes, I remember hearing her say, she doesn't want to leave the car because it's cold out there. What did you see her take?
Oh my goodness.
So Dwight comes to the door and he kind of opens the door and he's like, hey, do you remember what was on that table before he left? And I said, shut up. Sheet of amber candy rock. And he goes, what? Yeah. I'm like, sheet of amber candy rock. And he goes, sheet of amber candy. And he goes, did you take a dab? And I'm like,
a big one.
What? You know? And he goes, okay, all right, everybody inside. And my friend's like, wait, we're not going to dinner? He's like, no, this one's about to be on another planet in about 5 seconds. We're ordering it.
Yeah, I was about to say, you want to get to a couch.
So I'm lying on this strange man's, like, you know, and he's a bachelor, so he's got this nice apartment, but there's nothing in it, and it's just moved in. So he doesn't have like a bed. He's got like a mattress that his bed hasn't even arrived yet. I'm lying on this strange man's like mattress in the middle of a floor in fucking Long Beach, right? And I'm like, and there's like figures coming out of the wall, and I couldn't speak. Like, I've done mushrooms before. This was totally different because it wasn't just that I was hallucinating. It was like, you know that book by that guy who had that thing where he was locked in, where he had no communication, and he blinked his eyes, and that was the only way he could. I
can't remember that.
So like A, B, C, and he would have to spell out a book by blinking. That's how I felt. Like no language, like no, and my like I couldn't move, or like if I sat up, it was like oh my god, and I was fucked up until 8 o'clock the following morning, and I'm like I'll never be normal again, and but I slept like the dead, and then I had a meeting with my agency at like 10 in the morning. And I was like, bounced up, felt amazing, like totally fine, because I guess I was rested since pretty much my entire body shut down. But I shall not be doing that again anytime soon.
It was the edible. It was the mix of the two, I think.
I'm sure that edible already. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that edible was probably pretty strong, being out there in California from all the people I talked to out there. So the little bit that you took, and you don't smoke or do anything like that, that was enough right there to have you sleep till 8. And then you did that big old dab. I mean, that was just like, that put you in the couch for a day.
It was crazy. And then I'm like, you guys, I mean, like, of all, you know, and I really, I don't think I did a very good wingmanning job.
No, hey, you tried though. You tried though. No, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Well, that's like
I'm
the
glad
worst.
I'm glad
You know, I'm like this. I'm not friends with this. I don't even know this guy. You know, like I am.
Right. I mean, at least he was cool about it. You know, at least he was cool
Oh, he
about
was
it.
super cool about it. He knew exactly what was going on. He actually thought it was kind of funny.
Right. So,
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
So, do you have before I let you get out of here? Do you have any projects, or are you performing anywhere that you want to shout out right now? Or anything?
I mean, I always am urging people to subscribe to my podcasts. I have my one podcast is everywhere. It's called Just Genevieve. It's on iTunes and Spotify, really easy to find. My other one, which is on Patreon, which you don't have to be a paying subscriber to listen to, but I always, I appreciate the paying subscribers. That's called More Than Just Genevieve. And I'm on social media, Catfight Joy, so I'm easy to find. And if anybody's in LA, I always post when I have comedy shows coming up. So I think that's me, right?
Awesome. Well, hey, that's super cool. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime if you ever, you can always come back on. You got something you want to talk about?
Amazing.
About to drop a special, and definitely, when you drop that HBO special, you got to come back on
soon. Maybe I'll film it at that guy's studio, and I'll just stay far away from the farmer's market outside.
Yes. We got to make sure you got somebody with you to inspect stuff. Like, you try this, you eat that first, you take a bite of this.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, everybody, this has been the Cloud Chronicles. At the end of the day, I always like to say, mental health is real. You take care of this, it'll take care of you. Tell somebody you love them. Peace, namaste. This is Genevieve Joy. I'm your host, Jerry and Blaze. It's the Cloud Chronicles. Oh, and next time I have her on here, we are going to spend time talking about why she hates when people always say the phrase blessed. Till then, take care. We're out of here. It's the Cloud Chronicles.